It's May 31st, 2026, and we are checking out this amazing full moon. The sun is on fixed star Alpha Taurus Aldebaran, a royal star, and it's very close, zeroed, a 10 arc minute relationship. The only closer relationship is the moon's relationship to fixed star Alpha Scorpio Antares. So we have this alignment of the sun moon axis. The full moon is happening in conjunction with two of the most powerful and empowering and forceful and dynamic stars in the sky. These are power stars. The sun and the moon are kind of with the basket in that the sun is conjunct to Uranus. And by the basket, I mean all this formation of the outer planets that's been the focus of so much attention lately. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. When they get together, the world changes. The world changes very, very much, very muchly. And yeah, the moon is kind of joining up here. You can see relationship, and you can see down here in the aspectarian in the lower corner that major aspect is made with every outer planet. And like I said, that's going to bring the world changes, the rapid, the accelerated, the turbulent evolution that the world is going through right now. Mostly centered on war in the Middle East, centered on United States politics, centered on just shifting alignments and arrangements and agreements and alliances in the world today. All of this symbolized by the basket. And we have sun and moon joining that. So we have a conscious focus on all that. It's going to be pretty hard to escape this month. The basket accentuates the power of this cycle to evolve, right? To transform and mutate. That's what Scorpio wants to do. It connects the consciousness and experience of sun and moon to the basket's world-changing effect. It's going to mean that many people who might not have been so affected by change are going to be affected by change. The sun on Aldebaran actually has an enriching quality. It's stabilizing. It generates security. It is intense. It's associated with insight and power. We are still conjunct Uranus, Sedna, and Ceres when we think about sun here. So we can still expect the deep, the profound, the bizarre, the unexpected, the really, I think, really weird. This could be just a pretty strange month. And the moon on fixed star Antares. When we look at Antares, it's the heart of the scorpion, and it digests. It's really chiefly what it does. It breaks down, it metabolizes, and for that reason, it's often seen as ominous or sinister. Second ominous, sinister star involved in this. The new moon happened on a very ominous, sinister star, and the full moon happens on an ominous and sinister star. Antares is very passionate, and is passionate to the point of obsession. So it's one of those stars that promotes focus and fixation to an extreme. It tends to stir up drama. This could be an emotional moon. While at the same time, it kind of punishes involvement with that drama. Like it's a very hard star to understand. But if drama comes your way this full moon, the best thing to do is avoid it. Don't get caught up in it. If Antares has a wisdom, it would be the wisdom of curbing your enthusiasm, seemingly a theme this month. So it doesn't like the drama. It's a tough star. To the Persians, it was the star of their death god, Yima. For a long time, it has symbolized going to extremes, taking things the whole way. Some would say too far. The Antares person would say maybe far enough. Going to extremes. So this is further complicated by Saturn in Pisces making like a really close trine sextile to the sun and moon here. And what we can say about that, I think, is that this can reflect like uncertain boundaries. This can reflect changing norms. This can reflect the erosion, right, of prior social code, and emergent new technologies. All these things symbolized by Saturn and Pisces. And Venus has moved from Betelgeuse to Sirius, made a great journey through Gemini this month, and now sits on Sirius for the full moon. And she's conjunct to Jupiter, and she's square to Saturn. So this Venus on Sirius, now Sirius is a star that affects things very intensely. It always turns things up. It makes them very, very empowered, very dynamic, very energized. Too much for many people. The effect of Sirius is famous for being too much to deal with, but Sirius actually gives the power to deal with too much. It's like, yeah, it's a wild star. And Venus here, this could affect through contact to Jupiter and Saturn. It could affect banking, could affect finance, could affect power, generally speaking, in ways that turn up the heat. Sirius, like I said, just makes things too hot. And Venus generally blesses things, but Sirius is pretty neutral in turning up the positive and negative traits of planets. So I think you can expect to see, could be some fiscal heat, could be some instability caused by things being turned up a little hot this month. Mars for this full moon is on Hamal, the head of the ram, a famous star. Not great for peace when we see Mars here. Not for an intense full moon. We know this full moon will be intense because of the great stars involved. Stars of great intensity. Stars of going all the way. Signs and omens of going too far. And Mars here is pugnacious. Mars here, the ram, is Aries the ram, and Mars connect to bring out this more rambunctious side. Mars has a lot of sides. Mars is a complicated character, aren't we all? But this brings out Mars' pugnacious side, Mars challenging side, Mars conquering side, Mars pugilistic and warrior side. Mercury now sits on Betelgeuse, this victory star, this success star where Venus sat for the new moon, and that should provide humor, right? Realization, inspired communication. These are good omens, as Betelgeuse is a good star. It could be generally positive, but pretty fleeting. Mercury moves pretty quickly. It's good when Mercury and Venus are resonant. It lends to just to a more thoughtful, considerate approach, a little bit finer approach. We have every inner planet. Let's see, Ceres, Betelgeuse, Sun on Aldebaran, Mars on Hamal, Alpha Aries, and the Moon on Alpha Scorpio Antares. All the inner planets, bam, on stars. And the North Node too. We didn't talk about this, but the North Node is right at this time in the degree of Fomalhaut Alpha Australis Pisces. So that is another royal star. So we have 3 royal stars activated: Aldebaran, Antares, and Fomalhaut. And these royal stars are famous for bringing a lot of power, a lot of dynamism, a lot of intensity. The sun and the moon make a grand cross with the nodes for this full moon. These alignments, these energies are going to bring out the most kind of tense and disruptive qualities that that the sun and moon have to offer, and the fixed stars that are involved, Fomalhaut, Antares, and Aldebaran, are going to ensure that the power of this situation is maximized. This is extraordinarily volatile, friends. There are a variety of ways to approach this. I think from the point of view of geopolitics, this is likely to correlate to decreased stability, peace, and safety generally, and especially in light of the war in the Middle East. It's centered on Iran and the flow of modern necessities through the Strait of Hormuz. We can expect that situation to worsen and intensify this month. From the point of view of economics, we have a Taurus cycle. So what do we think about economics? This is likely to destabilize currencies. As the US dollar weakens, we're likely to see cryptocurrencies make various overtures towards legitimacy and mainstream acceptance. And keep in mind that this whole 6-month cycle until next eclipse season in August, it represents a cloud of economic crisis. The risk of that peril. I talked about that. I detailed that in February with the last eclipse season. We won't be out of those woods until August. We won't know, is that really going to be the effect of this, until maybe closer to the end of summer. From the point of view of personal evolution, right, and spiritual growth, our favorite, this moon on watery Antares, right, deep and protective and committed, right, committed to the bone, and so passionate, so fixated. It's going to be quite affected this cycle by the outer planets, and by all of whom the moon is making major contact with. So also she's opposed by Ceres and Sedna, and this is a potential octave triplet. And that emerged from Alan Clay's early study of dwarf planets, which I greatly appreciate. So all this intensifies things further via Uranian anxiety. A classic symptom of a Uranus opposition is a great anxiety that we must express the real deep truth of what something is. We must express the higher truth, the full picture, often around just surging ideas, blazing insights, the kind of big, bright, electric, inspirational kind of ideas, very inventive, very creative, this Uranus opposition. And to all this, we can add a 0 degree in conjunction to Mars, to the moon's list of relationships. And that just classically signifies that the left hand, Mars in Aries on Hamal, doesn't really know what the right hand, the heart, the deep heart, moon on Antares, doesn't really know what it's doing. So the heart might not know what the martial impulses are doing, and the martial impulses might be disconnected from the heart. Can be a challenging equation to balance. It's a recipe for hurt feelings in a deep way. And it may even force us to come to terms with the wild nature of the universe. This kind of relationship that people have with life that's just takes into consideration the idea that at times it itself is a monster, right? A killer, a tyrant. Nature's quite a force, and nature's God may itself be wilder yet, shall we say. And I go to all this because Antares is a very interesting star. It's a Scorpio, and Antares in Christian mythology. We're associated with the fourth archangel, the invisible one, Uriel. He wasn't invisible, but everyone knows Michael and Gabriel and Raphael. No, that we all know them, but Uriel, this fourth angel, and we have Michael associated with Aldebaran, Raphael with Regulus, Gabriel with Fomalhaut. Here on Antares, we run into Uriel. And the classic challenge Uriel brings is, can we understand that the spirit of all creation is also the spirit of great destruction at times? And can we approach this spirit with great love, even knowing its monstrous and ominous side? So, in Christian mythology, I guess the spirit of God loves all its children without conditions. And I mean, that's cool. That's great. I guess it knows our shadows and the monsters in our closet, and it loves us regardless. And so the test of Uriel, the test of the archangel Uriel is, can we love the spirit of God back on those same terms? Can we love the spirit of creation and life in the universe? Can we love it for its monsters in its closet? And this is the test. This is the test. Uriel brings a really heavy message, heavy test, and that's why it's one of the reasons why it's associated, I think, with the star, the heart of the scorpion. So with this in mind, this kind of little glimpse into the Christian mythology around the fixed star, Alpha Scorpio Antares. It's my wish for everyone that we've polished our tools, right? That we've practiced our skills, we've made our preparations, and that we're ready with love for the world outside when it does what it looks like it's going to do.